Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right in to a short but honestly incredibly profound piece of writing called The Futility of Unsolicited Reform. Now, I want to start off by asking you to think about something that's pretty much a universal human experience. We've all been there, right? You're standing on the sidelines watching someone you deeply care about, maybe a friend, a family member, or a coworker, and they're making choices that you know, without a shadow of a doubt, are leading them down the absolute wrong path. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You just want to reach out, grab the steering wheel, and force them to change course. It's a wildly frustrating, extremely painful, and just a completely relatable experience. But as we're going to see today, stepping in to fix someone else's life, yeah, it's rarely that simple. So, look at the question here. Why do we need to face the worst to wake up? This is pulled straight from our source text today, and I really want you to reflect on it for a second. Think about your own life. Think about those times you've helplessly watched loved ones fail. Or, let's be real, times when you yourself flat out refused to change until things got really, really bad. Why is human nature wired like this? Why is it that gentle advice is so often just completely ignored, while a total disaster seems to be the only effective teacher? Just keep that question brewing in the back of your mind as we go, because understanding this, it's the absolute key to understanding why our attempts to fix people so often fall flat. All right, let's get into section 1, the pain of watching. Unable to wake them up. The author writes that it is, quote, extremely painful to see stuff happening in front of our eyes and unable to wake up the people. Let's just pause and let the emotional weight of that reality sink in for a second. This text deeply, deeply validates that feeling of total powerlessness. You know, you're the observant bystander. You've got a front row seat to the train wreck. And the pain doesn't just come from the bad things happening. No, it comes specifically from that second part of the quote, that realization that you are fundamentally unable to wake them up. I mean, no matter how loudly you shout, they're just fast asleep at the wheel. Moving on to section 2, the requirement of consequences, hitting hard reality. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the source asserts that reform almost always requires experiencing actual consequences. To really get this, let's walk through this grim but highly necessary timeline that we pulled directly from the text. It starts right here at step 1, simply going down the wrong path. We see it, we recognize it, right? But here's the kicker. People don't just naturally course correct just because someone politely asks them to. According to the source, almost all the time, they have to move to step 2. They absolutely must experience the consequences of their decisions. They have to be, as the author puts it, hit hard by life. And it's only after taking that hard hit that they finally reach step 3, where they sit up and smell the coffee. Basically, they don't reform until the pain of staying exactly the same finally outweighs the pain of changing. It's a harsh reality for sure, but it is the sequence required for true reform. So what's actually keeping them trapped on that wrong path before they hit rock bottom? Well, the text gives us 3 very specific internal barriers. First up, unhealthy habits. These are those deeply ingrained routines that give them some short-term comfort, but do massive long-term damage. Second is a limiting mindset. They literally cannot see a better way of living because their own perspective is boxing them in. And third, they are blissfully ignorant. They're just comfortably, completely unaware of the danger they're actually in. So you take these 3 factors, and they combine to build this massive fortress around the person, which completely prevents them from changing before life delivers that inevitable hard hit. That brings us to section 3, when good intentions backfire, the paradox of helping. Here is where we hit the expectation versus reality core of this whole explainer. We always expect our good intentions to work, don't we? We think we're acting out of love, trying to change people entirely for their own benefit. We just want to see them thrive. But the reality, it's often the exact opposite. The result is that they turn resentful. The author actually shares a very vulnerable personal realization here. They found that their own good intentions completely backfired. Instead of getting gratitude, their unsolicited reform just generated resentment. By stepping in to save them, you don't magically become their hero. Actually, scratch that. You end up becoming their adversary. It's a crazy paradox. The harder you push someone toward what is objectively good for them, the harder they push back against you. Which leads us to section 4, the right to chaos, accepting their choice. Some people want their lives to be chaotic and remain blissfully ignorant. Just let that breathe for a second. Man, this is incredibly difficult for a caring person to grasp. I mean, we usually operate under the assumption that everyone wants peace, everyone wants stability and growth, right? But the text forces us to confront a really tough truth. Some individuals actively choose a destructive path. They actually prefer the chaos. They want to stay in that little bubble of blissful ignorance. And listen, if that is what they truly want, we cannot force clarity onto them. It's like you simply cannot rescue someone who is actively fighting you to stay inside a burning building.
The core of this entire philosophical reality boils down to this. It is their right to be who they are. Period. No matter how agonizing it is for us to stand by and watch, we fundamentally have to respect their autonomy. We have to respect their right to make terrible decisions. Their life belongs to them, not to us. And really recognizing this right means accepting that sometimes the absolute most respectful thing we can do, and definitely the hardest thing we can do, is to just back off and leave them alone to experience the reality they're choosing.
And that brings us to our final phase, Section 5, letting go, the ultimate solution. So, the crucial point is simply this. People change only if they want to. This is the anchoring truth of the entire text. It represents the absolute hard limit of your influence over other human beings. You can provide the tools, you can point out the path, you can be a supportive presence, but you cannot manufacture desire for them. The internal spark for change, that has to come from within them. If they do not want to change, your unsolicited reform is entirely futile. It's just not going to work. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought today. If we accept the premise of this source text, if it truly is their right to be who they are, and if people literally only change when they want to, can you find the strength to just wish them well and leave? Think about that. It takes immense courage to care deeply for someone and yet completely release your need to control their outcome. It challenges pretty much everything we think we know about helping others. But perhaps, just perhaps, by stepping back, we give them the space they actually need to finally face life, experience the consequences, and wake themselves up. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.